Hi friends, Jen here with Serenity Hill Farmstead. Today we're on the farm and I have my garden fork here and we are going to harvest some marshmallow root. Now we've talked about marshmallow before, especially when we start talking about gut herbs and respiratory herbs, but marshmallow you can use for different parts of it for different purposes. So this is about what all of our aerial parts of our marshmallow look like. They're dormant. This is not something I'm going to be harvesting and using. Everything is good and dormant, so now is the time to go after the roots. Now you don't want to go after the roots when everything is still green and lush and it's stuff that you could still harvest and use, because then all the properties are still in those leaves. They're still in the aerial parts, in the leaves and the stems and the flowers. You want to wait until you get a good bit of frost and everything is now pulling into the roots. All of those herbal properties, all of the things that we want to make our herbal medicine is getting pulled down deep, getting ready to sleep for winter. And that's when we go after it. That's when we harvest it. So this here is third year marshmallow. I always wait a few years, 2 at minimum, because I want the roots to get good and established and have good big roots to be able to harvest. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the camera up over here and I'm gonna show you how we do this. Now, just for the sake of wind, and I don't know how this is gonna be affected because we're having some gusts and things, I'm just gonna tell you right now how I'm gonna do this. So I'm gonna take my my garden fork here, and I'm gonna move about probably 1.5 feet out away from the plant at first, and I'm gonna sink this in the ground and I'm just gonna kind of rock back, loosen the ground, and then I start going a little bit closer and loosen that. I don't want to get too close because I don't want to puncture the roots. I don't want to cut anything. I want to get as much whole as I possibly can. Marshmallow is pretty easy to harvest, and you'll see in the video here in just a second. But that's my technique, so let's get you moved and I'll show you how we do this. Okay, so this here is all one big plant. This was the last little bit that I did not harvest before the end of the year, but this is a huge plant right here. It goes from here to here. It's huge. So I'm gonna go ahead, get out to the side here, and rock back. We'll do that all the way around. See how it moves that plant? You want to see the whole thing kind of rock up. You can feel some of those roots pop. So this is on the edge of the bed and it's kind of tricky, so I'm going to go in from like way underneath on the side. All right. Take a look at what we got here. Lots of worms. There we go. Starting to see the roots come up here. Here's a big one. There it is. There we go. Okay, we've got one plant out. That was just one. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my Hori Hori knife. If you guys get a Hori Hori, I would highly recommend one like this. That is what we call full tang. So it's one blade, one solid piece of metal. It doesn't have breaks in it that go all the way through the handle. That's what's gonna make a very sturdy knife that isn't gonna bend and break right here at the neck. So I got it off of Amazon. If I can find the same one, I'll link it, but it's Gonic is the brand. I love this thing. And I have left it outside. I have wintered it. I have, yeah, it's still going strong. So this here is Marshmallow. And this is a really good example of the way marshmallow roots behave. Some of them go down, some of them go out sideways. They just kind of go every which way. They're not super, super dense and tight together. So that's nice. Let me see. Here we go. This is probably the hardest part to work with, which is like the heart of the plant where everything comes together and the leaves start coming out from it. Now, you see how this is all like busted up and everything. Ideally, you don't want to do that. Ideally, what you want to do is try and get it out in one piece, but this was such a huge plant. I just did not have the hand strength to like pull the whole thing up. And if you saw, I moved that log. That log is kind of the edge of our berm. So one of the roots had gone up underneath it. So I had to move that log to be able to get that big, thick piece of root out. And yeah, so this was a long piece. It almost looks like a long taproot there. And all of these stems, we don't need these. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut these off because these are dead. I'm not, you know, normally you can use all of the pieces of marshmallow, but I am not going to. I have everything I need for aerial parts to supply our family and to stock the website with some things. So I don't need that. So what I'm gonna do here is you see I just cut off the tops, and that's gonna make, like getting all of these aerial parts out of the way, that is gonna make it easier to clean this up and work with that. And how I do that is like these little pieces here, I'm getting mud everywhere, just break off. And that's fine. And I like to snap them off when they're still dirty because it's easier. The mud kind of keeps everything in place. Okay. And then from there, we're ready to clean off and scrub this. I will probably cut this down the middle just to make, oh, here we go. Just to make it easier to get, you know, good cleaning in there. So I am going to scrub these. I've got a brush, like a dish brush, that I use to clean. It's a narrow one to get in all of the cracks and crevices, because you can see it's, you know, it's kind of wrinkly in places. They're roots, they do that. And I just want to make sure I can get this as clean as absolutely possible. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get all of that cleaned up, and I'm going to cut all of that stuff up. And then we'll be able to stick this in the dehydrator. I don't like to leave roots to air dry, you know, with the current setup that we have, because we don't have a dry house. And when you have a dry house, which we will have next year, we will be building one. But when you have a dry house, it's a house, it's basically a building dedicated for drying herbs. It's like a gigantic dehydrator. You control your airflow, your ventilation, your temperature, and your trays are big, huge, gigantic trays where you just lay everything out and you can watch them more closely. But we don't have that. We've got a couple big, we've got a commercial one, and then we've got like a step down from that, which is still a pretty large dehydrator. So that's what we have to put everything in for now. I don't want to just air dry them because I don't have that same kind of control. And when you're talking about doing a root, you really do need to make sure that, like, this is going to get cut up, by the way, before I put it in the dehydrator, because this would not ever, the center of this would not ever dehydrate before it would affect the quality of it. You want to make sure you've got the ability to dehydrate these roots properly, and then you can store them. So while I'm working on this, I'm going to talk to you guys about the difference between marshmallow leaf, flower, and stems, like all the aerial parts, and marshmallow root. Now, marshmallow aerial parts are used for, you can use them for the skin. You can use them, they're really soothing, calming to the skin. You can use it for the respiratory system. It's super good for your respiratory system. The mucilage is the big property in the roots, but it is throughout the entire plant, just not as potent in the leaves as it is in the roots. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But the leaves, they are really good in an infusion. Like, you can put those in a tea, and you can do it. It's in my Breathe Tea recipe. That recipe you can get in my ebook, which I'll put a link for down below if you want to check that out. Don't forget, we're having that Black Friday sale. For the first time ever, I'm able to put the entire shop on Black Friday deals, which is amazing. And I will have 25% off my ebook, but if you've ever been interested in taking one of my courses, they're going to be 40% off, which is a big discount. And all of the physical products will be 15%, just because it's more expensive to do physical products, and there's the shipping, and there's the packaging, and the bottling, and all the stuff you got to get. There's a way more overhead. So those are the discount rates. If you guys want to check that out, check out the link down below. It'll take you right to it. Okay, so marshmallow leaf, really good for the respiratory system, and you can drink that in a tea, no problem. If you were to try and make a standard infusion where you're going to make a cup of tea with marshmallow root, you are going to have a big goopy cup of mucilage. So the demulcent property is what we're talking about when we talk about mucilage. So this plant here, this wonderful, amazing root, this is not, by the way, how we clean. This is just trying to get as much mud off as possible before I go put them in my van and take them home and really clean them up. I don't want to have to clean out my car. I'm trying to hide from the sun here, but what that mucilage does is it helps to soothe and balance the mucous membranes. When we're talking about the root here, we're talking about the gut. Now, when we are working with the root, the aerial parts we just said are really good for the respiratory, but when we're talking about the root, we're going to want to use this for the gut. Now, marshmallow root, really, really excellent at soothing the mucous membranes of the gut. So that's your entire lining of your entire digestive tract. This is so good. Oh, those weren't even attached. They were just kind of intertwined. Look at them. This is a really good picture of how these roots look. They do go out, but not crazy far. It's not like Elecampane where it just kind of like goes crazy out like that. This one is a little more subdued, and they go down, they go out, they spin around. So yeah, that's just kind of about how that one was sitting. Okay, so back to it. If you were to make this as a standard warm infusion, then you would get a thick cup of tea. It would be kind of like the consistency of, oh, let's say, half gelled bone broth, or like, let's see, like Jell-O that isn't quite set up, but it's well on its way. Man, that sun is just in that spot. Okay, so this is, I think this is gonna be about good. Oh, we got a little more. We got a little more. So if you want to make a cup of marshmallow root tea, you wanna do it as a cold infusion. And how you're gonna do that is you're going to do a cup of it. And when I'm done all processing this, I will make, maybe I'll make like a short, because that really wouldn't be enough for an entire video. So maybe I'll make a little short on how to make that. So for this, we'd make that cold infusion. And to do that, it's pretty much, you can do it with cool water, you can do it room temperature, and then you wanna set it, let it be for like 24 hours, and then you can drink it. And it's not, you know, it's not really the same consistency as your warm tea. It's still like a touch thicker, but I don't know, personally, I can't really tell unless I'm really paying attention to it, and my kids can't tell. And I have one very texture sensitive child, so, and he does not notice. When he has a stomach ache, when my kids have stomach aches, marshmallow it is. So, and they don't really like super hot tea. I've got one, actually I've got two, one that likes it, one that doesn't mind it, and then the other two prefer iced tea or room temperature tea, which I don't like. Give me warm, give me iced. Room temperature. Well, friends, I got busy taking care of these roots and talking to my kiddos, and I completely forgot to do the ending of this video. But I did get through all of the good information and gave you everything you need to know to get started with marshmallow root. And if you want to grow this amazing plant, it's really easy to do, and I'd highly suggest you give it a shot, because this is a wonderful herb to have on your apothecary. So if you guys did like this video, I'd love it if you gave it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.